Beaches were supposed to be havens of isolation and tranquility. Beaches were supposed to be, well, anything but this. The sight before my eyes made me promise to God I would never complain about finding a dog turd on a beach again. A dog turd would be good. A dog turd would be easy. This was... where did I start? I stood at the top of the wooden steps that led down to the spit. There must have been 200 people roaming along the sand, and it looked like even more were up on the mole, going by the number of cars parked stupidly and illegally anywhere and everywhere. It was as if half of Dunedin had simultaneously chosen to take an early Sunday morning joyride to Aramoana, except that it wasn't a joyride. Looking at people's faces, there was nothing joyous about it at all. There was awe, anger, disgust, and straight-out greed on those faces, but not joy. There was only one reason they were here, and that reason was so vastly out of place, so incongruous, that my mind was trying every trick it could to try to convince me that no, that wasn't a bloody great container ship stuck up by the end of the mole, and no, those weren't shipping containers stranded on the beach. How the hell could this have happened? There hadn't been a storm to wreak havoc and drive the ship off course, and anyway, when the weather was that severe, they closed the Taiarawa Head entrance to shipping. The lanes were too narrow and convoluted to risk it in poor visibility or high winds. Sure, the breeze had been up in the night, but it hadn't been that bad. Normally, if the wind was getting serious, the tree outside my bedroom window did a bit of a creak and scrape on the glass. Not that I'd have heard it over the noise from that bloody party at the neighbours'. I'd spent the long hours of darkness enduring someone else's bad taste in music at make-your-eardrums bleed volume. So much for my hopes of a restful weekend in Aramoana at the crib. Under any other circumstance, I'd be grateful for the chance to get away to my folks' friends' holiday home to dog-sit their fluffy mutt. Today, not so much. My eyes scanned the warped scene before me. I didn't think the weather conditions could be blamed for this. No, surely all this had to be human error or mechanical failure. One thing was for sure, heads would roll. The carnage here on the beach wasn't the result of nature's fury. This mess was entirely man-made. I stumbled my way around the debris. There were books, clothes, furniture, loose papers wafting around like oversized confetti, toys, smashed ornaments, candles, wine barrels, nondescript cartons, unidentifiable tat, and people. People everywhere, sifting through the goods casually like they were searching through the titbits on offer at their neighbour's garage sale. My eyes kept darting to the ship and its precarious lean. I don't know if it was an optical illusion, but it looked huge and close. My pre-caffeine brain grappled with the spectacle. It was hard to figure what was stranger in this catalogue of the bizarre, the ship or the car, on its roof and the drink with its wheels saluting the sky. I took it from the presence of the fire engine and a few blue-uniformed officers that the car situation was under control. It was hardly surprising, given the number of cars and the number of their drivers doing dumb-nut things, that someone eventually got shunted off the narrow little road to the mole car park and into the water. I was amazed there weren't more of them testing out their vehicle's buoyancy or lack of. The driver's owner was lucky it was shallow there, and even more lucky tides and weather had dumped sand over the jagged rocks. The police presence was small. It was early and a Sunday, and I was guessing there hadn't been time for the Dunedin Central Police Station to mobilise more staff and get them out here to Aramoana. There was a group of police officers ahead of me, trying to maintain a cordon around what must have been some fascinating booty. Despite the tape and officers, people were still trying to get to the choicest bits. I recognised the Port Chalmers community constable. He would have been, geographically speaking, the officer stationed closest to Aramoana, if you didn't count me, on my supposed peaceful weekend off at the beach. "Hey, John, what's happening?" He was a big burly kind of a bloke, much like my partner Smithy. They seemed to breed them big down here. The extra layers of clothing needed to ward off the cold didn't do anything to slim his silhouette. "Bloody mayhem, that's what's happening. The sooner we get more backup out here, the better. I don't know what the hell's taken them so long. In all my years, I've never seen behaviour like this. So much for us being a civilised people." It was quite evident John Farquhar had done a drop and run to get out here this morning. His face bore 5 o'clock shadow, 5 a.m., not p.m., and his dark time for a trim hair hadn't seen any attention either. Not that he probably gave a damn. He had a scowl that looked permanently